Welcome in. Mount Polumbus Speaks is the podcast, and I'm grateful to be with you guys again on this beautiful Thursday night. It's a little bit chilly out there, and my neighbors do still have their Christmas lights on, but that's okay. I'm here to hang out with you guys tonight, and we got some things to get through, but before we get to all of that, I do want to take a quick second here just to give a shout out to my sponsors, Safeway, who I've been working with on and off for really 6 or 7 years now. Been a huge part of Pedal with Polumbus to beat ovarian cancer. They've donated over $500,000 to ovarian cancer in honor of my mom, who passed away from stage 4 ovarian cancer. They're on board, and I'm so grateful to Safeway to be a part of Mount Polumbus Speaks here. I'm used to saying Pedal with Polumbus. I'm so grateful to be a part of, have them be a part of Mount Polumbus Speaks here, and I want you guys to remember that there is a difference where you guys shop, because at Safeway, they've got fresh food and local flavors. They cut all their fruit fresh in store every single day, and that makes a huge difference. So order online, and Safeway will do the rest for you. Guys, you're going to get great deals. You're going to save a whole lot of money by ordering online, and you're going to get points that you can redeem for exclusive offers. So get started at Safeway.com or in the Safeway app. Safeway, fresh foods and local flavors. Okay. Moving on to the content of the day. Again, it's good to be with you guys. Thank you guys for always tuning in to Mount Polumbus Speaks. I got the Nuggets on in the background here, so I'm watching that game, as I'm sure many of you guys are. I only got 4 quick hitters that I'm going to get to with you guys today. And here's what I got. We got a little bit of Russell Wilson and Sean Payton trash talk. That's always a little bit juicy. These two guys cannot leave each other's names out of each other's mouths, even when they won't use each other's names. That's the ultimate trash talk. That's when you know it's going down. We've also got NFL award season, and we've got 2 Denver Broncos, actually 3 Denver Broncos that are going to be finalists to get awards when the season's all said and done. From Defensive Player of the Year to Offensive Rookie of the Year, Coach of the Year. We'll break down all of that. We've also got some lower tier coaching moves that are going on right now, just to keep your eye on. Nothing earth shattering, but this is the time of the season that, well, you start seeing guys bounce from staff to staff. They get promotions. They get better jobs. They just want to go to their buddies. They don't like their current staffs. They get the hell out of Dodge. And the Broncos are not immune to that. So Broncos already lost Ben Kotwika. I'll tell you the other coach that looks like he might be the next man to leave the Denver Broncos this season a little bit later in the show. So let's start off with the juiciest of the juice, and that is the Russell Wilson and Sean Payton trash talk that continues to go on. I did cut the piece of audio from Russ that was on with Pat McAfee that I'm going to play for you, but before I play that, I'm going to catch you up to speed on the end of the season presser that Sean Payton had. And I wish I could find the audio. I was looking for it a little bit earlier. I couldn't find the audio to actually play for you guys, so I'll just catch you up to speed. Like, it's no secret that there's no love lost between these two guys. No secret at all. And when the season was wrapping up, Sean just could not help himself all year long but to take shot after shot after shot after Russell Wilson whenever he could. And no, he would not ever say his name, but yes, it was clear as day every single time he was taking a shot at Russell Wilson. And the very last question Sean Payton got before the offseason ends, it's the last thing he's talking about before he fades off into the sunset. He goes out to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. He plays golf. He does whatever he's going to do. This is the very last thing that comes out of his mouth. He's just simply asked about the vibe of the season, how to go, and he goes on his own to start to compare it to how it was last year. And Sean says, yeah, last year, boy, pain, suffering, misery. What other adjectives you guys got for me? What other adjectives you guys got for me? He's actually asking the press. What other miserable words can you come up with to describe what last season was? Yeah, last season, that was brutal. Okay, see you later. And he walks off. Those are the last words he's got to say. And make no mistake, he absolutely was talking specifically about Russell Wilson. It's absolutely what was he referring to when he was talking about the pain, the agony, the suffering, the frustration, everything that he had to go through. And I do think that got back to Russ. I think that Sean was never motivated to make it work with Russell Wilson, But there was a breaking point, and the breaking point was the game last year when Sean got into Russell Wilson's face, and he was dog cussing him, and I'm sure you guys all can remember it. He was dog cussing him something fierce. He got into his face, and Russell Wilson just looked at him like a scared puppy. Just stared at him and took it and took it and took it. And then this year we all saw the famous incident on the sideline when Bo Nix got into it with Sean Payton, and the next day Sean Payton in the press is like, yeah, that's what I love about Bo Nix. That's my love language. That was the breaking point for Sean Payton. When he was testing Russ, he was testing Russ at that moment to see how he's going to respond. He didn't feel like he liked the fight that Russ had. And believe me, Russell Wilson does not have any love lost for Sean Payton. Russ was on the Pat McAfee show. I think this was today, maybe yesterday. And here's what Russ had to say about the two great coaches that he's had in his career.
I've been fortunate to play for two really special coaches in the fortunate to play for two really special coaches in terms of men and how they think and how they process the game. Obviously, and Coach Pete Carroll and obviously Coach Mike Tomlin are really unique individuals in how they lead and motivate. I think they're culture builders. And so,
So hopefully you guys could hear that audio there. I'm actually not sure if you could. I'm not sure if I did that right. I apologize if you could not hear the audio. If the audio did not come out, here's what happened. Russ isn't even asked about the coaches that he's been around. Russ, whenever he gets on one of his diatribes, he just starts talking about anything and everything, and his brain starts going, and he doesn't even know how to land the plane. And somehow, some way, he's been around two great coaches in his career. And he starts talking about, that's good. I appreciate you letting me know, Wendell. Starts talking about, Pete Carroll and Mike Tomlin. Leaves out Sean Payton. Certainly had no love for Sean Payton. He had a lot of love for Pete Carroll, a coach who did not have a whole lot of love for Russell Wilson when it was all said and done. I don't know if people really understand how toxic it was behind the scenes between Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll. When it was all said and done, man, those guys were not on the same page. And Seattle could not wait to get rid of him. Now, I'll give Russ a little bit of credit because when Pete Carroll retired, Pete had this retirement party out in Seattle, and he invited a bunch of former players. He didn't invite Russ, and I know this for a fact. Russell Wilson was not on the invite list, but that doesn't mean that he was not allowed to show up. He just didn't get an invitation to the party. And all of Pete's favorite players from over the years showed up for this event, and Russ flew out to it, and he just showed up, and he hung out. And I do think that actually went a long ways to mend the relationship between Pete Carroll and Russell Wilson. And there are rumors that Pete Carroll is in the running for the Raiders job. So if the Raiders landed Pete Carroll and they weren't able to move up for Shedeur Sanders in the draft, I guess it's not the world's craziest idea to think that there could be a reunion between Russell Wilson and Pete Carroll out in Seattle. But then the other coach that he mentions is Mike Tomlin. So very, very specifically leaves out Sean Payton's name. No surprise there. Those two guys hate each other's guts, and they can't help but talk about each other without mentioning each other's names. It's just hilarious to me. It's absolutely hilarious. It is fascinating, though. The Steelers they are stuck. They are freaking stuck. They are drafting late in the draft. I don't even know what they are. What are they, 23, 24? Actually, they're probably even later than that. And no chance at hell of getting a quarterback. And what Russ said on the Pat McAfee show was that they've already opened up contract negotiations. So Russ and the Steelers, I guess a match made in heaven. The Steelers are in quarterback purgatory. They can't draft a young QB. And according to Russ, which I don't know if it's true or not, apparently the negotiations have started, and the Steelers love themselves some Russell Wilson. Good luck with that. All right, moving on. Broncos do have some good news, and the good news is that the NFL is taking notice. There's some good things going on with this team, and it's no surprise to us, right? No surprise to us at all that there's some good things going on, but, when you get to the end of the year and you talk about award season, it's pretty unusual to see more than a singular, offshoot award go to a team that didn't make it deep into the playoffs. But the league's starting to take notice. And here's the three people that are going to be up for NFL awards. It's been announced the finalists for all these awards today. And we got three people that are going to be up for an award. The first one's the biggest, it's To me, it's a surprise. Maybe it's not a surprise to you guys. But the first one to me, the biggest surprise, is that up for Coach of the Year is the Denver Broncos' own Sean Payton. There was a point in the season that I honestly did think that it was a two-man race for Coach of the Year. I thought it was a two-man race between Sean Payton and Dan Campbell. But then the last quarter of the season came around, and the Broncos had to play some teams that were better than them. They got their brains beat in. Things were falling apart. And I was like, yeah, no chance that Sean Payton's got a opportunity to coach of the year. But NFL feels different. Does he have a realistic crack at this thing? I don't know. Here are the names that he's up against. The 5 finalists for NFL Coach of the Year this year. We've got Sean Payton, Dan Campbell, Kevin O'Connell, Dan Quinn, and Andy Reid. So let's break it down. Usually to me, when I talk about Coach of the Year, I think it's dumb that Andy Reid's on this list. Because to me, when we're talking about Coaches of the Year, generally speaking, it's coaches that did more with less, right? Like, is it really a surprise that Andy Reid's got the Chiefs in the playoffs? Is it really a surprise that they've got an opportunity to go for the three-peat this year? Not really. So I don't know why Andy Reid would be on that list. Dan Campbell, that makes a whole lot of sense. Kevin O'Connell, that made all the sense in the world. And I would be okay if Kevin O'Connell won that award. I mean, what he was able to do with Sam Darnold this year, nothing short of spectacular. And he might be the official new quarterback whisperer in the NFL these days. Did it with Kirk Cousins, did it with Sam Darnold, went out on a limb, I should say, and signed Sam Darnold to a relatively decent deal for a guy that was just a backup quarterback. It wasn't crazy money, but it was like $10 million. And turned Sam Darnold into a dude that was on the fast track to be getting paid $50 million per year. Unfortunately for Sam, the last 2 games of the year changed that story greatly. Sam will be a starting quarterback in the NFL next year, and Sam will be making probably $30 million plus, but I'd be really shocked if anybody's going to pay him that elite money of $50 million plus. So I do think that Kevin O'Connell's a really good candidate for Coach of the Year. Dan Campbell, I just love me some Dan Campbell. But again, last year was kind of like Dan Campbell award season for me. The second year, once it's been established, to me, Coach of the Year goes to the coach that did more with less. And if anything, when it all came down to it, the Lions had a very early exit in the playoffs that's going to be painful for Detroit fans. And they might be out of their window entirely. So I don't think that Dan Campbell makes the most sense for this award this year, despite the fact that I am a super fan of Dan Campbell. And I think the Lions might be in trouble moving forward because they're losing both their coordinators. Aaron Glenn took the New York Jets job, and Ben Johnson took the Chicago Bears job. That's going to be tough to rebound from, man. I'm not saying Dan Campbell doesn't know ball. I'm not saying he's not an X's and O's guy, and I know for a fact he's even called plays. So I'm not trying to insinuate anything about Dan Campbell not being a smart quarterback, but let's keep it real. What is Dan Campbell best at? Leadership, culture, building a building of belief, of toughness, of psychos. That's what Dan Campbell is best at. So losing both of his coordinators, I don't know, man. To me, that feels like a huge blow. I'll be surprised if the Lions make a run at it next year. Okay, other candidates on the list. Dan Quinn, to me, he's got to be the favorite. I mean, that storyline, taking Jaden Daniels to a Super Bowl, rookies never won a Super Bowl. It's never happened before. And I shouldn't say that he is taking him to the Super Bowl. He's got an opportunity to take Jaden Daniels to the Super Bowl. That'd be a more correct way of saying that. That, to me, is the greatest storyline that's going on. So, Sean, I don't think he's got a chance at it. Andy Reid, to me, no. Dan Campbell, no. Kevin O'Connell, maybe. And yeah, Dan Quinn, to me, he should win Coach of the Year. All right, moving on. Chris Banjo. So this is the season that coaches start to make moves, and the Denver Broncos already lost their special teams coach. He was fired. Sean Payton got rid of Ben Kotwika. Ben Kotwika is a guy that I know very well. I played for him out in Washington. He's a great guy, but he was never Sean Payton's guy. And the rumors are that Sean wants to go out and get Darren Rizzi, who is a former coach of Sean's out in New Orleans. This is what coaches do. They just get the band back together. Coaches, the NFL is very incestuous. You go with the same guys from city to city, whether you're a player or whether you're a coach. When you get in with the coach, you are in, man. And so Sean Payton going back to the well of coaches that he's previously known, it doesn't bother me at all. I think it's totally normal. And matter of fact, I think it's actually pretty healthy for coaches to have other assistants in the building that they know, that they love, that they trust, that they're not worried about mutiny. They're not worried about trash talk. They're not worried about any of that. So out has been Kawika. The Broncos have not actually made a hire for their new special teams coach yet, but one guy that was on the short list to become the Denver Broncos special teams coordinator is a guy named Chris Banjo. You might not know who Chris Banjo is, but he was an assistant special teams coach on this Denver Broncos team this year. Chris played in the NFL for a very long time. He was a tremendous special teams player, and I guess he's in with Aaron Glenn because it sure looks like, it's not a done deal yet, but it sure looks like Chris Banjo is going to bounce for the New York Jets, and that would leave the Denver Broncos, I think, without any of their special team coaches left. Maybe there's a third guy that was on staff. I can't remember his name if there is a third guy. Sometimes you carry two. Sometimes you carry three special teams coaches on a staff. But it looks like the Broncos are going to lose Chris Banjo, which sucks because he was a candidate if you didn't get Sean's main guy, Rizzy from the Saints. Chris Banjo was on the short list, and he's just a good dude. He's a good dude that knows how to communicate from a player's perspective. And I think that's important, to have enough coaches in the building that can communicate from a former player's perspective. That's always healthy when you've got a few of those guys in the building, and he'll probably bounce. I'm not really worried about any other coaches on this staff taking other jobs. The only other name that is left that potentially could happen would be Vance Joseph. But I think that that's over and done with. If Vance was going to take a different job, I think it probably would have happened by now. I know there are still a couple job opportunities that are still open, and they've got to develop their whole coaching staffs. So maybe there'll be an opportunity out there. Initially, I thought to myself, well, it clearly was not awesome between Vance Joseph and Sean Payton at the end of the year. I'm not saying they hate each other's guts, but it wasn't awesome. And I'm a huge fan of Vance. I think he's done a great job for the Denver Broncos. Even though the month of December was atrocious, it was a hot mess. Vance Joseph, what he's done over the last year and a half, and we won't count what happened before the Miami game last year, but if you just count the last year and a half as a whole, dude, it's a lot of good stuff. A lot of good stuff. So moving on from Vance, in my opinion, would be a big mistake. And I don't think they could fire Vance Joseph because he did too good of a job. So I'd be really, really surprised if they would actually do that, fire the guy. However, if Vance were to be offered another opportunity, would the Broncos allow him to take another opportunity? Yeah, I bet they would. You are allowed in the NFL to block moves to other teams if it's considered a lateral move. Misplaced Alaskan says we got to get him a couple more players. You know what? He needs a couple more, but we're pretty damn good on defense, man. We are. If you go across the list from our defensive line to our edge rushers, dude, I love everybody we got in that group. Secondary, I love Pat Surtain, I love Riley Moss, and I'm good with our safeties. They're fine. Are they elite? They're not elite, but they're good. The only two positions that in theory I think you could use a significant upgrade at would be both inside linebacker spots. And I like Cody Barton and I like Alex Singleton. I'm not down on either one of those guys, but neither one of those guys is an elite football player. So once they get Alex Singleton back, I think that'll help. They need some depth and potentially a new starter at inside linebacker. They need some depth at the corner position, and potentially, if you wanted to make a splash, you could find yourself a new starting safety. But I actually think Vance Joseph has got what he needs defensively. Offensively, it's a different story. Offensively, they've got a few really important missing pieces. It starts with tight end, running back, and wide receiver. They will address all of those needs in the offseason. They absolutely address all of those needs. Tim saying goodbye and good luck to Russell Wilson. Yeah, good luck to the Pittsburgh Steelers if they re-sign Russell Wilson. That's what I would say. Good luck to the Pittsburgh Steelers if you think that's a good idea to actually re-sign him. Where was I? Coaches. Yeah, I'm not worried about any other coaches leaving. I thought Vance might bounce, but I think if that was going to happen, it probably would have happened by now. Yeah, on offense, David, the 3 and outs are a problem, and it absolutely does affect the defense. When you're on the field all day long, and there were some games that, don't get it twisted, the time of possession was out of whack, insanely out of whack. That's really, really difficult on defense. So you want to help out this Broncos defense that is close to being elite, give them an above-average offense, and see what this defense can do with some proper rest, and it'll go a long ways. Okay, so we talked about the Russell Wilson versus Sean Payton trash talk. We talked about the award season that Sean Payton's up for Coach of the Year. I forgot to talk about the other 2 players that were on that list. I apologize. I got ahead of myself. So Sean Payton is on the list for Coach of the Year. Bo Nix is on the list for Offensive Rookie of the Year. He ain't going to win that. That thing is a landslide. That is going to Jaden Daniels. There was a point in the season where I thought that it was a 2-man race between Jaden Daniels and Bo Nix, but that's long over. The other 3 names that are technically on the finalist list for Offensive Rookie of the Year is the Giants' Malik Neighbors, Brian Thomas Jr. from the Jags, and Brock Bowers, who had arguably the greatest rookie tight end season in the history of the NFL. Not just one of the greatest rookie seasons, it's one of the greatest seasons, just simply put, by any tight end in the NFL. It's a landslide who's winning Offensive Rookie of the Year. That's Jaden Daniels, and he deserves it, quite frankly. And then the last person that is up for an award from the Denver Broncos this year is going to be no surprise. That's our own Pat Surtain. Pat Surtain is a finalist for Defensive Player of the Year, and the other names on that list are Myles Garrett, Trey Hendrickson, T.J. Watt, and the Eagles linebacker Zach Bond. He's on that list as well. So Pat Surtain, as a corner, has got his work cut out to win that award. I believe there's only been 2 corners ever. Not ever. I think there's only been 2 corners since the 2000s that have won NFL Defensive Player of the Year. I know Jalen Ramsey has won. I'm drawing a blank on who the other one was. Forgive me. If somebody could help me out there. It's very difficult for a corner to win Defensive Player of the Year, but I actually think that Pat Surtain is the favorite to win it. I do. And I'd be a little bit surprised if he didn't. My opinion, if he doesn't win it, although Myles Garrett and T.J. Watt are perennial contenders for this award, what Trey Hendrickson was able to do out there in Cincinnati, he got himself 17.5 sacks this year. Dude, that was a special year. So if it doesn't go to Pat, I think it should go to Trey Hendrickson out there in Cincinnati. All right, the only other thing that was on my to-do list with you guys tonight was just to go over storylines that's going on in the NFL right now and the 4 teams that are left. What are the best storylines that are left? Here's what we got, okay? You guys tell me. Make this interactive. I'd be curious to get your thoughts on it. I've got an opinion that I think is not a popular one on this one of what the best storylines are, but here's what we've got, okay? So we've got the Buffalo Bills, who have been to the Super Bowl 156 times, would have never won it, okay? That's a hell of a storyline, and quite frankly, I think the Buffalo Bills are a very likable football team that it's really hard to hate on them. It's hard to hate on the fan base. It's hard to hate on Josh Allen. I mean, Bills Mafia, they're a bunch of big, dumb animals that are a bunch of lovable, big, dumb animals. I mean, I think they might be my spirit animal. They might be my spirit animal. I like the Buffalo Bills. My partner on Altitude 92.5, Darren McKee, he's all about like, oh man, the Bills are by far the greatest storyline. And I actually disagree. Although I like the Bills, and I'm certainly rooting for them against the Kansas City Chiefs, in my opinion, I think the greatest storyline has to be something that has never been done before. A rookie quarterback has never won the Super Bowl before. And yes, I played for the Commanders, so I'm a little bit biased on this one as well because I'm clearly rooting for them. But what Jaden Daniels has done out there in Washington, what Dan Quinn has done, I think Dan Quinn should get Coach of the Year. Jaden Daniels should get Offensive Rookie of the Year. And I actually think that the Washington Commanders are the greatest storyline in the NFL right now. No rookie has ever won a Super Bowl. I mean, if you do something that's never been done before, isn't that the greatest storyline? It might not be the most popular storyline. The most popular storyline is the lovable Buffalo Bills. But to me, the best storyline would be something that's never been done before. And then I hate to say it, the Chiefs, actually, before I get to the Chiefs, let me talk about the Eagles really quick. There is no storyline with the Eagles. Like, what's the storyline with the Eagles? That A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts don't like each other? That they're a bunch of, that it's a ragtag bunch that doesn't really get along? Is that the storyline for the Eagles? Like, there's nothing compelling about the Philadelphia Eagles winning the Super Bowl this year. I think there's something extremely compelling about the Bills. There's something extremely compelling about the Washington Commanders winning the Super Bowl. I'm not saying this is compelling when I talk about the Chiefs, so nobody twist my words and turn me into a Chiefs fan, because I'm not, and I'm actively rooting for the Bills to beat the Chiefs. But if we're being honest, there's never been a three-peat either. So there's two teams that are chasing something in the history books right now that has never been done before. The Washington Commanders are chasing the history book of a rookie quarterback winning a Super Bowl. And the Chiefs, they're also chasing something that's never been done before. No team has ever gotten the three-peat. Not back-to-back-to-back. There's been teams that have been close that have had 3 and 4 or 5 years, but there's never been a team that has won 3 straight back-to-back-to-back. And I get it. I'm over the Chiefs. I get it. The Chiefs are officially in the bag with the referees. I get it. Every commercial with Travis Kelce and Patrick Mahomes makes me want to vomit. I'm over it. But if I'm being honest, and what's most important in the history books, it would either be the Chiefs three-peat or it would be Jaden Daniels winning a Super Bowl as a rookie quarterback. It's not what I'm rooting for. It's just what I think is the most important in history books. I'd be curious your guys' thoughts on it, though. I do think that if you polled America, about 80% of America would say that they're rooting for the Bills right now. Because really, what is there to hate about the Bills? Misplaced Alaskan says, agreed. Not only is it awesome because of Jaden, but add in the years of suckage under Dan Snyder's awful ownership. Yeah, that's important. That is important. I mean, they turned that thing around like that overnight. First year with Dan Quinn, first year with Jaden Daniels, and they're competing for a Super Bowl. Dude, it'd be freaking awesome. And I actually do think the Commanders are going to beat the Eagles. And I hate to say it. I freaking hate to say it, and I hope I'm wrong. But I think the Chiefs are going to beat the Bills. And we're all just going to have to puke our way through the Super Bowl and throw up all our nachos and wings and just suffer through the misery of the Chiefs pulling it off again. They're a weird year. They're a weird team, man, because they do look susceptible on paper. And they've had a lot of games this year that have been really, really tight. But, man, how could you – if you're betting on it, which I'm not, but if you were betting on it, how could you bet against Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Andy Reid? Are you kidding me? I'm not going to be dumb enough to predict it. I think the Bills are probably going to build, just like the Chargers are going to charger. The Bills are probably going to build. They're probably going to choke in the playoffs, and we're all going to have to suffer through the Chiefs being in the Super Bowl again. All right, that's it. That's all I got for you guys tonight. I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Again, quick shout-out to Safeway, who jumped on board as the title sponsor of Mount Polumbus Speaks. I also want to give a quick shout-out to my good friend Alfred Castro, from AC Barbers, who is a sponsor of this podcast as well. If you're in the Parker area and you want a good haircut, which I've been going to AC now for over 5 years, the only dude that's cut my hair for over 5 years, the only dude that will touch this majestic beard is AC over at AC Barbers. So if you guys would like a good cut, go check out AC in the Parker area. I promise you, if you've never treated yourself to a proper barber, you're missing out. And I'm so grateful to Safeway and everything they've done. I love you guys.